Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we will be discussing an economic phenomenon that is causing concern to experts worldwide. Renowned economist Nouriel Roubini, also known as Dr. Doom, has warned that the world is facing a looming, stagflationary debt crisis that will be the worst of all worlds for workers. In this video, we'll explain what stagflation is, what factors are contributing to the crisis, and what the consequences could be for people around the world. Stagflation is a term for a rare economic phenomenon, first coined in the 1970s, which occurs when prices rise even as the economy shrinks. In Australia, inflation rose to 7.4% in the year to January, with the Reserve Bank raising rates again in February for the ninth consecutive month to 3.35%. The economy grew at a weaker than expected 0.5% in the December quarter for an annual rate of 2.7%, and wages data this week showed real household disposable income virtually unchanged from 2012. I do believe that this stagflation rate crisis is going to emerge this year, Dr. Roubini told ABC's The Business. The latest numbers on inflation coming from the US and Europe, and other advanced economies, showed that inflation now is quite sticky. Central banks are in a dilemma because they have to raise rates more to fight inflation. But if they do so, the economy is going to start to contract quite soon, and if they don't, then we could have a de-anchoring of inflation and inflation expectations, he said. Dr. Roubini predicts stagflation will collide head-on with a global debt crisis, combining the worst elements of the 1970s oil shock with the 2007 GFC. In this case, if we have those shocks to, say, oil prices, not only do you get inflation, not only do you get recession and stagflation, but you get what I call a great stagflationary debt crisis, because with interest rates so high, then the debt ratio has become unsustainable. The consequences of this crisis could be dire for workers around the world. Financial markets will crash, borrowing costs will rise, defaults by households and businesses will rise, and some financial institutions may go under. Ultimately, working people will be hit the hardest. Stagflation is the worst, because loss of jobs, unemployment, weakness of the labor market, and wages are growing less than inflation because you have stagflation, Dr. Roubini said. So it's across the board to even those who have a job, to their real wages, because prices are rising more than wages, and some people lose their jobs and their income. So stagflation is the worst of all worlds for workers. It comes as Australians continue to grapple with increasing costs, as rising interest rates and dwindling household savings leave many on the brink of crisis. This week, major supermarkets Aldi, Coles, and Metcash, which owns Eager, appeared before a Senate committee into the cost of living. Liberal Senator Jane Hume, who is chairing the inquiry, said the committee aimed to hear from diverse areas across the country to learn how cost of living pressures were impacting everyday Aussies. Cost of living is the #1 issue facing Australians right now, she said on Wednesday. I want this committee to go right around Australia, to hear from ordinary Australians about how they're doing, where they're finding it tough, and find practical solutions to Labour's cost of living crisis. In conclusion, the looming stagflationary debt crisis is causing concern to experts worldwide. The consequences could be dire for workers around the world. It is important to keep an eye on this situation as it unfolds and take necessary measures to protect ourselves.